my mom suggested that I, sign up for like a little business course or something. And I did. I signed up for business school. And
are you calling MBA a little business course?
no. I skipped ahead.
It's night to live. It's night to live. It's night to live. It's night to live.
Was it you that I was telling? Well, there's the song that gets me in the mood, regardless of what's happening, is Michael Jackson's "You Rock My World." When I hear that,
You become happy.
it doesn't matter. Nothing else matters when I hear that song. That's my jam.
Really?
That's my jam. Like,
Hold on. Doesn't matter what is happening. That's my jam.
It was in one of the few CDs that my dad would let me touch as a child.
I think that's it as well, because my dad had my dad had the CD. And
So
I
tragic,
remember,
hey? Everybody grew up on Michael Jackson.
Yes.
Like, I love Michael
Jackson is the king.
He
To
really
this
is
day,
the
he's
king.
the king. Like, Lynette was the same situation. I think at some point we only had one CD after we were robbed. So the only CD we had, I think, was Michael Jackson and Luther Vandross.
Hey!
Yeah, those
Luther.
two. So those two, doesn't matter what's happening, guys.
They make
If
you
I
happy.
hear Luther or if I hear Michael, it's over.
You
It
know
just takes me back to that
who
time.
my dad forced me to like? Because he had his CDs, ne?
Yeah.
But he's a very my things are my things type of man.
Yeah,
And-
our dads are so similar.
Like my things are my things. And
Don't touch.
his twin plug in the house is his twin plug. Like,
Yeah.
just
No one must use
Yeah,
it.
no one must use his twin
It
plug.
mustn't be moved from
You
this
know?
plug, yeah.
And because he saw that I like music, he gave me 5 CDs.
And it was like,
One was, do you know that pop compilation? The
what those
Now.
now?
Yes, the Now. There was the
why does your dad have a now though?
I don't know where he got it from, but
Now,
there was a,
20,
but there was,
what,
but,
what,
Yeah.
now?
but there was a 1999 one, and it had Will Smith's
Getting Jiggy with It.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
You probably wanted one song from that entire CD.
yes,
And you
it-
bought the
and then
entire
you bought
thing,
the
because that's how it
entire
was
CD.
back then, right?
Yeah.
You
Then it
couldn't
was-
stream
you
one
couldn't just
your
find
favorite song.
Yeah.
And,
Then it was John Cicada.
What is John Cicada? How did he, what was that?
Where do I go from you? A lonely street is
Yeah.
where every road.
Stay, I don't
And then
wanna
there was
go. That
Jim
one.
Reeves. Very old 60s music.
Is he the one with the white hair?
He had a hat. He would wear hats.
Okay, no.
In the misty moonlight.
Okay.
By the
You know what I'm
flickering
thinking of? I'm thinking about that one that
firelight.
used to sing with Dolly Parton. Who is that? Ken Rogers.
Oh, Ken
Kenny
Roger.
Rogers.
I'm thinking about Kenny
Everything
Rogers.
is
Yeah.
alright.
I imagine if Santa was real, that's what he would look like.
Probably would be. But
Kenny
anyway,
Rogers.
you know what? It's real. This show.
9 to
Welcome
Life.
to 9 to Life, your career and life journey podcast, where we interview accomplished people doing the things you'd like to do or the things you didn't even know you could. Sejo, we're back, my brother.
We're back. We are on episode. Is it 17 now?
Who's counting?
We are.
brother?
You have to count, guys.
Who's counting?
This is episode 17. Jeez, how did we get this far? We were on one the other day.
Well, it was episode 0, which you guys do need to check out because it helps you understand why we're doing this. But yeah, anyways, our guest today is Mukhethwa Madima. Hi.
Hi.
Is it Madima or Madima?
Madima
Madima. Okay, so you put emphasis on the D.
on the D.
Okay. Don't laugh.
I just heard that.
This is still a career podcast, guys. Still a career podcast.
Wow, what a way to start.
Yeah.
Are you up?
I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
No,
Very
beautiful,
welcome.
beautiful. So, we do this podcast so that our viewers can get a glimpse of what it takes to get wherever you are, but the most interesting stories are usually the ones that happened at a very young age, at your formative years. Can you tell us a bit about your background, like starting from little young Mukhethwa,
Oh, wow, that far back.
that far back?
Tell us about Mukhethwa.
Tell you about Mukhethwa. Actually, wasn't that. That's more recent, actually, Mukhethwa.
Okay.
Before, back then, it was Kei.
Kei.
When I was little, I
You're
used
doing
to.
an inside joke. Like, I'm just sitting here lost.
Don't know why it's coming.
It's
When I was
fine.
younger, you know, when you get older, you want to now use your full name.
Mhm.
Oh, no longer your baby name.
Mhm.
You know, so when I was growing up, I was Katie, right? All the way up until I was maybe 30, I'd introduce myself like, "Hi, how are you? My name is Katie." You know, so
Really?
yes, because I remember I used to cry when I was little. I would be like, "Oh, my name is too long to write." You know, with little children, like they
Yes.
start writing their name and then it gets smaller and smaller and then trails off the page. That was me. So, yeah, I went by Katie for a long time. But when I was, but to backtrack to answer your question, in my formative years, were in the United Kingdom. Not long after I turned 1 year old, my family moved to England and we stayed in Essex. When I was little, I used to go around saying I'm an Essex girl, and my mom used to say, "Stop saying that." If you know, you know.
It's a code name for something.
My brother.
Okay, let's move. Career podcasts. Let's go.
We digress. But yeah, no. So I spent my formative years in a town called Colchester, which I was very pleased to find out is the same place where my favorite singer grew up, Sade.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
she's from
really?
there too. Yeah.
Wait, Sade is not African. Somewhere.
I mean, one of her parents is.
Oh, I always thought she was like Nigerian.
I think one of her parents is Nigerian.
It's
I think her dad's
Nigerian, right?
Nigerian and her mom's British.
Oh,
I don't quote me, I might
okay.
be wrong. But
It makes so much sense.
I found out
now.
very recently that Tracy Chapman is black
what?
Are you
and
serious?
a woman.
You were kidding
And
me.
by recently, I mean like after like 20, when I was 23.
No, man.
Yo.
But
Look,
also
I
with
get it,
Shasha
right?
Keza, I thought that
Where?
Angelique was a woman.
Really?
You thought who was the woman?
But
Angelique, do you know Angelique?
Angelique,
Do you know Shasha Keza?
Oh my goodness.
I thought it was a woman
I'm
singing
still
that.
shook by Tracy Chapman. Like,
my brother, look, I get it if you've never seen an album cover, a music
Yes.
video. I sort of get the man one. And I guess the black one as well. But you've never seen a cover, a video.
I don't know. Maybe it's because like I've seen, like the image is like burned in my mind
So when I
that
first saw the image,
I can't separate her from who she is.
Yeah.
Like,
It was on like a
do you
YouTube
mean?
video. Because my dad loved fast car. We would never have a road
Yes.
trip without my
Without
dad
fast
playing
cars,
Tracy
yes.
Chapman. But I
I
don't
got
know
a
why he didn't
fast
play because
car.
my dad almost exclusively only plays black artists.
Oh,
Except for Jim Reeves.
Okay.
And maybe
okay.
two others. So I was like, oh, it's Tracy Chapman, it's Jim Reeves, and then it's Ada.
Are the only
Those are the only
exceptions.
white artists that my dad plays.
White male.
Those are the only white male artists that my dad plays.
And
Anyways,
it's funny because it's her look. Like her look is iconic, right?
yeah, she's very androgynous.
She's
I've
very.
never
I don't
seen
know
her.
what that means. What does that mean? Mukhethwa?
having male features.
No, not
androgynous.
having male features. It's like it's like you're fluid. You can look male or you can look female or, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
My bad,
Androgynous.
guys.
It's not just male features.
Okay, sorry, guys.
Okay. Yes. Sorry.
Okay,
Colchester.
so Colchester.
Yes.
Yeah, so
We
my
sidetracked.
parents were studying at the University of Essex, which is in Colchester, and they took me along with them as a baby, and that's where I grew up. I spent my time at the university creche.
Oh, the University of a Crash.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
beautiful. We are so far behind as South Africa.
I was about to
And
say,
that was in the 80s.
Yes. Because, okay. But yeah, we are very far behind
because I
as
was
South
about to
Africa.
say, what is wrong with the kids at that varsity? But then I was like, oh shit, that varsity, you can go there at 40.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, no.
Is that first year's
Yes.
bringing
And
shit?
also faculty
And faculty.
and admin
Yeah.
staff
And
all
admin
those
staff
things, yeah.
and support staff and all of that.
Yes. So it makes sense actually.
You know, so, and then I went to a creche that was just up the road from where I stayed, a primary school there. So grew up in Colchester, came back when I was about to start grade 1. And actually did grade 1 in the UK. And when I came back, they were like, no, she's too young.
Oh, you started early.
Yeah, because I think
'Cause you
they
were
put you in
there.
grade 1 at age 5.
I see.
So, and then here at that time, it was age 6 in the 90s. You'd be 6 years old in grade 1. Now I think it's 7.
It's 7.
Now it's 7. I think there was a time where it depended when your birthday was. If it's before April, then
I
you
don't know,
could
because
go.
like my birthday's in December. So it's like, that's why they were like, no, she's too young. Because even when I came, I had just turned 5 at the end of the grade 1 year.
no,
So
you
I
were
was
never gonna
4
make
my
it.
whole
So you
grade
went-
1 year.
Yeah.
You're never gonna make it.
Yeah.
So then I turned 5. So I was 5 in grade 1 here in SA again, grade 1 again. And then I turned 6 at the end
It's
of
in
the year.
December. Jeez.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So when I finished matric, I was 17 by the time we bye school. And then during the school holidays, I turned 18.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
perfect. And how did you explain the accent?
Oh no, when I came back, I sounded completely British. I mean, that's
That's
where I was a baby. I was a
Obvious.
baby when I went there.
Yes.
I sounded completely English. I sounded like I came from Colchester. You know, I had the only way is Essex accent. You know, so it was, I don't know, I suppose it played in my favor in some regards, but I was the teacher's pet until my personality came out, and then I wasn't.
Oh, they didn't know who they didn't know what they were
You know, they just liked me because I was kind of, novel. I sounded funny. I sounded foreign, you know. So, and then it was like, okay, you know, I talked too much in class, which is what was the issue. I was a big talker. I spoke a lot. I remember every report at the end of the year is like, oh no, Mukhethwa gets along with this other classmates and students, but she can be a distraction because she talks too much. You know,
Still the case.
Still the case.
Really?
I mean, as an adult, obviously, I know when and where, but I can get carried away sometimes.
Sure.
Which is ironic considering my profession, because there I really keep it up in wraps.
Yeah. And your parents, were they, what do they call it?
Expats. What?
No. And it's funny because Arte says this all the time. Those people who are always studying, is it academic? No, not academics.
Yeah, were they very academic?
Yeah.
As like a trait.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Very much. Very much.
I know that.
When that word comes up, I'm going to shoot myself in the foot. But it all comes.
Because you know it.
Yes, because I know it. But yeah.
So the first time a lot of us met Mukhethwa, we went to school together, right? But our orientation was online.
Okay.
So we
Don't start.
So we were all attending from our homes. So Mukhethwa, where I think it was your folks' place, right?
Yeah, I was in the study at my parents'
So
house.
the study
It was during COVID, yeah.
has degrees. Like she'd change angles, but there's still degrees.
They still think
Like she'd be sitting like this the one day, and there's degrees in the background.
it's the
And then she's
reason
sitting
it's
like
not
this.
the weather. Like,
So to answer your question, yes.
And I always had to say,
Very
these guys, please, these
They're
are not all mine.
Yes.
They're not all
Some
mine.
of them were yours though.
Some were mine, but they're not all mine. They're not all mine. No, I come from a very academic family. You know, education is very highly, respected. And it's not just, because of what it can do for you in life or the doors that it can open. It's that too, but it really contributes to your way of thinking. How your mind is shaped, your worldview. More than anything, it's how your worldview can be changed and adaptable. So I think that's the greatest gift my parents ever gave me is an education. And it's continued to be educated, and that now I'm in education as well. So
Now you are giving the education
what
that
do you
you
mean
got.
by you're in it?
So I am trained in clinical psychology. I have a master's in psychoanalytic theory. I did some clinical work when I was in the UK, in the NHS, and now I am, in education, tertiary education. I lecture at a university in Johannesburg,
Oh, okay. No, thanks for
tertiary
that.
institution.
Okay, before we go, because I want us to get there, right? Because I want us to talk a lot about
Yeah, we're jumping
psychological
ahead,
stuff.
aren't
Yes.
we?
You are back in South Africa. Mukhethwa,
Yes.
the little teacher's pet. That was primary, right? High school.
I mean, I wasn't until I wasn't until I was. I was until I wasn't.
Yes, until the personality.
My mother
kicked
even
in,
got
yeah.
tired of me getting detention for talking. It's like, is this a thing? It got
Yes.
to the point like they weren't even angry anymore. It was like,
We know.
At least it's just talking.
yeah.
Yes, high school.
High school, I moved to an all-girls school. So I was in a co-ed school when I came back to SA. And then I moved to an all-girls school.
Where's this in Gauteng?
Yes, here in Johannesburg. I went to an all-girls school and it was a very different experience because, girls' schools are a crucible on their own as well. As much as, just high school in general for like somebody that is trying to get to know themselves, it has its pros and its cons. The pros are that you are not distracted by boys because that is the age where things can go left.
That's where it starts.
And I mean, it's not, and it's normal for that socialization with males and females as adolescents, but I think it was good for me.
Being at an all-girls school.
Yeah.
Why do you say that?
No, I say that because I'm a very social person.
Okay.
Like I like people.
Okay.
I just, it just narrowed my social circle.
Is there a difference between being distracted by boys and being distracted by girls? Because a lot of people from all girls school realize that they are, I'm attracted to girls.
I wouldn't know. I mean, like,
Don't relate.
Seems like a
that's not a question I can answer. I mean, that wasn't my distraction.
Yeah. Okay.
My distraction became girl drama. Like, it was girl drama, female dynamics. And I was just like, ooh, this is a lot. But you learn a lot. It makes you resilient. There's something about going through either girls' schools or just boys' schools, that it builds a certain type of character that I think you wouldn't get in a co-ed situation, although you get a lot from that as well. I think it's really important, particularly in the younger stages, but I feel like we're really sidetracking again.
No.
Is this a
We're right on
sidetrack?
track. We're talking about
Because I'm like,
your
I feel like I'm
experiences
just
as
like,
as a young girl
okay.
and how you sort of navigated that
Yeah.
to become or to move on to the next steps.
Oh,
That-
okay.
yeah.
I think for the high school stage, I
Yes.
think in particular,
Mhm.
one thing I did start to notice is that my friends would confide in me. I was the confidant
Okay.
for a lot
Fantastic.
of people.
Yes.
And it just came naturally to me. I don't know if it's, whether I had a welcoming personality or whether I was non-threatening or non-judgmental, but,
I think it might have been all of those. Plus, if you are the one that's always talking, it means you are sharing. And you're making it comfortable for other people to start
that's
sharing
true.
as well.
I did share.
Yeah, very good.
So I don't know, maybe people found me relatable or I was somebody that could easily relate to others. I think that's more what it was. I think that's when I first noticed that people did just confide in me and, talk to me. And another thing that I noticed was that I was as much of a social person as I was, I didn't belong to any particular group. I found that I was in all of the groups. I was a people's person.
Yes.
I was with the quote unquote jocks. I played all the sports.
Okay.
I was in the choir until I wasn't.
Okay.
I did debating. I did school plays. I was in drama club.
Jeez.
I was one of those overscheduled kids.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, that was very helpful because I had a lot of energy.
Energy, yeah.
A lot of energy.
It helped contain some of
I
it.
was that kid when I was little. I was just like, I would run everywhere I went.
Yes.
Like from the TV to the kitchen, I'm running, So, I did all the sports. So being able to be flexible to different types of people and different types of personalities and groupings, I find that in from a mental health or a caring profession, you know, not necessarily just psychology, but any profession where you are required to speak to many different types of people, in an intimate setting where they are vulnerable, you know, it really helps to be able to adapt to different types of people. And that's what I found was like a soft skill or a natural character trait of mine, that I was very adaptable. I could move through all the circles, which of course kind of made it ironic that I'm such a social person, but it also made me kind of a loner.
Okay.
You know, and that.
Is it because you couldn't stick to one, like what you said, you couldn't stick to
There was
one
no group that I felt like I fully belonged to. I was kind of like an interloper.
Okay.
Just, you know, I coming and going, you know, it's like I had, it almost was like an unintentional compartmentalization. You know, when you compartmentalize things, where, you know, this group of people doesn't touch that group of people.
Oh, yes.
You know, and it just, I don't know, maybe it lended to my ability to be able to really be present when I'm with a certain group or with people or in a certain situation, that I can focus on what's in front of me.
Interesting. Take us through then, okay, it seems like you sort of started to be aware that maybe psychology might be a career in your high school.
But you know what's funny though? I had no idea at this time. I was just a social butterfly.
Okay. Because my question was, your ultimate decision to go into psychology, did you get there on your own, or did someone say, you know?
No, I got there on my own by default.
By default?
Yes.
Okay.
And by a lot of time wasted.
Okay.
And it was me that was wasting the time. It wasn't that.
That's important.
It wasn't that what I was involved in was time wasting. No, it was just me not being present.
Okay.
But psychology kind of came as like a, you know, background type of thing. So I went to Varsity. And I did not know what I was going to study when I got to uni. I had no idea. I was going to go do a general BA and just, you know, dip and dive in different schools.
Okay.
Until I landed on what I felt like would be appropriate for me. That was not something that was in the plans of the powers that be.
Okay.
Powers that be said, choose something.
Okay.
I couldn't choose, so it was you know, go do law, you know. So I was like, all right, let me go do law. That sounds fun. I used to watch The Practice and Law and Order.
I can kind of see you doing that.
And private, you know, all of this. Yeah, you know, Boston Legal, you know.
Hey, that has come back.
Yes.
Boston Legal,
No, that was my favorite.
I was down with the law procedural shows back in the day, you know. So I was like, I could do that. But and then I realized that, you know, America is not South Africa.
It's not as fun as it looks on TV.
You know, I was like, and I was like, I have to actually study to get to that point.
Yes.
It's like, do I actually even want to be in a courtroom? And but I found that because my choice was arbitrary, and you know, just as a response to parental pressure, that I found myself a very competent, very academic and studious person in a space where I was unable to apply those talents because I was not interested in what I was doing, you know, and, you know, that caused a lot of problems, you know, personally in the family life. You know, I was flunking out, not because I couldn't do the work, I just didn't.
And I guess that's what's frustrating for your parents because they know.
Yeah, you know, and I think that was a really a real turning point for me. Like I had to think, like, what do I really want to do with my life? And during those, you know, that undergrad, one of my electives, you know, you have to fill a gap when you're doing like a structured degree in whatever field. There's always a gap, like an optional subject. And I was like, me, psychology.
Wow.
But in that regard, I think it was, you know, like God or the universe or that law of attraction. Like this is what you do and you do that naturally, you know, so it chose me as much as it was part of me anyway. That. And then, you know, from there, the rest is history. You know, I changed majors and I moved from law to psychology. And then I started getting distinctions. And then,
things
Yeah.
were cool at home then.
Yeah,
Wait.
I think then things got cool at home. But I think the important thing is that, I think it's really, and this is just my opinion, I think it's really unreasonable for society or the world at large to expect 17, 18, 19-year-olds to pick a career, the thing I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I mean, although, times have changed and careers pivot, but generally speaking, this is going to be why I wake up in the morning every day.
Every day.
And for, a person that young to decide and choose something when they haven't even been exposed to a fraction of what is out there that they could do. They might find something that is their lane, but but just from a lack of exposure or lack of life experience to be expected that this is the path I choose. And I think that's why it's very confusing, for people in their late teens, early 20s when they get to varsity. It's like, it's not like high school where your subjects are prescribed.
And there's like
no, you have to do this. No choices. And none of this stuff is actually applicable in real life. Like I don't use trigonometry at all in life. Whether they,
but you had to do
whether
it.
they cumulonimbus clouds or Sirius clouds, that's not a factor in my life.
It's just
but
a
I
cloudy
did
day.
geography. This is information that's taking up space in my brain.
Yeah.
So, to expect us as young people to just, select. But again, what else are we going to do? It's like we're at the age
that's
now
what life forces
where
us.
childhood is over and we need to start doing something else.
And how do you have that how do you prepare for that convo with your parents?
Oh, no, it wasn't a convo. That convo didn't happen.
It was a you shall.
Like I might have grown up in England, but I'm not English,
Still had South African parents.
So you just switched.
No, like the convo was around, the trouble with not doing well academically, and, what I had chosen. It wasn't like it was forced down my throat to choose specifically to do law or anything. I'm not going to say it was a make a decision. It wasn't you're going to do this. No, it wasn't that at
You have
all.
to go study.
No, it's like,
whatever
no,
it
I
is.
was given an ultimatum. The ultimatum was, in this house,
We study.
you either study or you work.
Oh, we don't have people sitting around.
We don't have people sitting around.
Okay.
Yeah, which is fair.
I like that.
Which
I
is
like that.
100% fair.
Because mostly,
No, I mean,
usually
I
it's
finished
you
high
will
school.
study, yeah.
I finished high school and I was like, I want to take a gap year. And they were like,
No
no.
one just sits around in this house.
what are you talking about gap year?
But okay, I
My
think
obligation to you technically
Yes.
is over. Everything from here is a
Yes.
favor to you.
Actually.
So you either work and parent or you study.
And why did you not choose the work, or did you? I'm assuming now you.
No,
choose
for
the
me, it
gap
wasn't
work.
even an option. It was like I wanted to study. Like, and it wasn't,
Okay.
I wasn't forced into going to university. I wanted to go. Like, I was in high school in an old girls' school, and they were like, "You want to go to varsity?" I was like, "Hell yes!"
Oh, yes. Oh, and here I come. But tell me, do you think a gap year would have helped?
I don't know.
Okay.
I really don't know.
Okay.
And I say that because even with a profession that I chose and I'm passionate about and I'm naturally good at and I have an inclination towards, there's still what am I doing with my life? And I think that's something that we take for granted. It's like we're adults and,
You should have it figured out by now.
And I
what they
realize
say,
that
yeah.
that imposter syndrome is ever present at every stage in your life. And I also realized that, the way we looked at our parents when they were our age, we thought they had it together. And I realized that you never have it together as an adult. It's always
figuring it
trial
out.
and error.
Yes.
It's always figuring it out. It's always, being scared about the future. Yeah. So I just find that kind of energy is difficult to kind of navigate sometimes.
I see. And since we are there, let's talk about how, because I imagine that's a lot of what a lot of adults deal with when they come to you now for clinical assistance.
Yeah.
How do you begin to even talk people through such things? What do you do? Do you let them talk or? Whew.
I mean, what I'm talking about now is for me, it's retrospective because I don't do clinical work anymore.
Yes,
Right.
anymore.
So it's
So remember, we're almost moving to
So
that
now we're
timeline
in
now.
work stage.
Yes.
So my I graduated. My undergrad I did here, and then I did my postgrad in the UK.
Okay.
I went back
Here,
to
where
England.
did you study?
Here I was at UNISA.
Okay.
Well, let me say I graduated at UNISA.
Okay. Oh, Ghana, there was a lot of time wasting in
there was
somewhere.
academic time wasted. Yes. No, I graduated at UNISA. And then I went to the University of Essex. I went to the university that my parents went to.
Nice.
Yeah, for my master's.
Okay.
And that was a great experience.
Yeah. So you went back to the place where you grew up. That's
Yes, I went back to my childhood town.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
And it was nice. Like it's.
But you're alone now. Parents.
No, I'm alone. No, I'm alone now.
Now you can call yourself an Essex girl all you like.
No. I'm okay. I prefer to call myself a Joburg girl.
Okay.
Because this is the other home.
Okay, yes.
Not that there's anything wrong with Essex girls.
No, don't worry. We have looked at the stats. We don't have any.
We don't have any Essex girls.
Don't worry.
No one is watching.
Yeah, don't worry.
For now.
For now.
Yeah.
You know.
Yet.
But so then from there it was, I came back to SA and I started working for an NGO. I started working for a mental health NGO here in Johannesburg. And it was really great experience. I found the work itself rewarding, but the interpersonal office stuff I found draining. And again, this speaks to your temperament, to your personality, in that I think I found myself for the first time in my life in an environment I could not leave and come back and leave and come back. And, like how I am socialized socially, I'm a part of different groups. And, I found that it was not me. And, I'm actually thinking about my dad as I'm saying this, and he's like, what do you mean? I could just see it. Like, what do you mean it's not you? How is working not you? But it's difficult to explain. Some people are very good at work that just requires them to show up, do the job, and leave. I found that I'm what my dad calls unemployable, which is like him. Is that I have an inclination. Okay. I mean, that's what he says, that I must just be self-employed, like he's self-employed, but that I have an inclination because I talk too much. This is where the bad part of being a talkative person comes in.
Yes.
Is that because I talk too much, I have this character trait that for some reason rubs authority the wrong way. Or let me say
in your experience.
In my experience.
Yes.
And it's gotten me in trouble in the past, professionally, personally. You live and you learn. Not everything about you is great and wonderful. I think it's important also just from a career perspective to think about that interview question that everybody hates. Like, what are your weaknesses? My weakness is that I'm a perfectionist. Like,
I care too much.
I work too hard.
These questions, they might seem arbitrary and trite and just like, the cannon fodder for interviews and that recruitment process. But when you really deep it, these are really good questions, in that you need to be very aware of your faults. You need to be aware of your limitations. And unfortunately for most of us, the way we become aware of them is, when they drop kick us in the mouth.
When it hits the fan. Yes.
Yeah, when they drop kick us, you learn that, sometimes being too vocal, too I'm right and you're wrong, even if you are right. That's something I learned about the corporate structure, is that never make your boss look bad.
I think that's rule number one.
It's rule number one.
Rule number one.
48 laws of power.
Yeah, never before that book was even written, I was violating that rule,
Hey.
So, I've learned that there's things that I can change, which I did. Sometimes you just have to shut up. And I've learned that there are spaces that are not good for me. Sometimes I just realized this is not an environment I can work in. And for me, that environment, seemed to be the 9 to 5, and it's not that it was an NGO. It was also just the quality of it being a 9 to 5. Since being at business school, I've kind of flirted with the idea of being in a full-on 9 to 5 corporate.
Okay.
Yeah, and
do you feel like the business school sort of molded you into what corporate would be more willingly?
I mean, it's attractive.
Accepted.
It's hella attractive.
Of course.
If you've never been in corporate, I was in socialized healthcare. I've done, NGO work, I'm now in education. So it's really like different fields and industries, but like corporate is it's almost like the playing field of it, the platform, the pitch. So, and then there's everything on it, different types of corporates, but the structure is very much the same and the culture is very similar. And that's not a culture that I've been in, but it's very attractive, just from the point of compensation, from the point of structure, from the perspective of, just feeling secure and safe and, being able to plan for the future. It's conducive for that type of thinking and living. And that is attractive. But I'm not saying if I get a job in corporate, if I get offered something, I won't take it. Yes, I'll take it.
Now you can look at the camera.
I'll be good at it.
So, Mukhethwa, our viewers, who we want our viewers to be are the 16 to 24-year-olds.
Okay.
And just so we don't lose them, I'd just like you to maybe touch on what psychology is.
Okay.
And also what you study for that. Well, what career options are open for you once you have that beyond sitting on the couch and listening to people's problems.
Yes, because that is maybe the most typical view of what's being a psychologist is. It's doing therapy on the couch, dealing with an individual's mental health problems. Okay. But psychology is a really interesting subject. It's essentially the study of human behavior. Okay. So you're studying the motivations behind why people do the things that they do.
And this is at an individual level.
Depending on the type of psychology.
Okay.
Because, there's different types of psychology. It's at every possible level, from the individual to the group, to organizations, to, societies. You've got social psychologists and research,
Quick question. What's the difference then between psychology and sociology?
Psychology and sociology is different in this respect that psychology looks specifically at mental health processes and when things go wrong, mental health pathologies, and then also looks at theory specifically relating to human behavior. All right, on those different levels.
Yes.
So it's looking at human behavior, it's looking at pathologies where like illnesses around human behavior. It's looking at the brain and the mind and the influences on human behavior. Sociology, on the other hand, is the study, broadly speaking, of society. So I'm looking at how human beings organize and looking at the theories and the studies behind that, on all the different levels. But when it comes to family settings, community settings and so forth. So that's what the difference is. So psychology is more around the brain, mind, and the individual and how they operate in the world. Sociology looks more at how humans operate in that system of society.
Fantastic.
And
Thank
then
you.
you were wrapping up the career options that are available to you.
There's a typical route of, the common psychologist's idea, is being a clinical psychologist. You help people with depression and anxiety, Some people might need to be hospitalized with more severe illnesses of the mind. And we use talk therapy as a means of treatment. So we have techniques and skills and knowledge and exercises and theories that we apply to help you through the experiences that you're having that are impacting you negatively because of your mental health declining. And then that's what you see in the movies. You have a therapist and, it's depicted in many different ways.
Sitting on the couch.
But that is not the only pathway for psychologists. Psychologists are inherently researchers as well. So the soft skill that we develop as psychologists is research. So you can become a researcher in any field. And this is why it's one of those professions that's a soft skill, where you can have psychologists in any industry, because where there are people, there is psychology to be done and worked with. So, research, you can take you across all industries. If you're interested in mining, you can go do research in that area. If you're interested in, music, like whatever, lawyers need researchers, to do compile information for cases, need expert researchers about specific subjects. There is educational psychology. There's developmental psychology where you're working with children. You work specifically with, disorders like attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder, the autism spectrum disorders, or children with just adjustment issues. There's counseling psychology where you are dealing not with mental health problems, but more with people failing to cope with everyday issues. So you have marriage counseling, counseling for people who are maybe going through grieving processes and just are unable to cope. The everyday things that we struggle with as humans, and that sometimes we might need some help. There's so many. There's forensic psychology. That's where you're working mostly in the criminal justice system with the police and the courts, and
like the mentalist. That's what I think of.
Well, that environment, yes.
Yes, yeah.
But not hunches.
Mentalist?
Where did it used to play?
My man, we just found it on the internet.
We just found it online. We just found it.
And let's not incriminate ourselves, but we found it.
We found it online.
Yeah.
On legit streaming platforms.
Yes.
Yeah, but no, psychology is very interesting in that, like I said, you can apply it anywhere. It's one of those transferable professions where, psychologists can be found anywhere. And not even just from a perspective of serving an individual consumer, so to speak. There's industrial psychologists that work in the corporate arena where you are looking at psychology of organizations, how to optimize employee well-being as well as, organizational productivity. So, there are so many different areas. And then there are people who just use psychology as a basis or a foundation for other careers. You can apply it. Psychology is not so much a profession only as much as it's also a tool. You can use the things from the theory of psychology in everyday life, apply it to professions, whether it's optimizing your home space and how your family operates. If you study psychology and decide, I don't want to do it from a professional perspective. There's many avenues. And I find it really fascinating and interesting because, beyond the mental health aspect of, dealing with mental illnesses, and it's really interesting and cool to learn about schizophrenia and, all of these disorders that can be really debilitating and distressing to patients, and helping them and feeling a sense of reward from that. Besides the clinical aspect of it, which I think is the most popular aspect. There's so many things that can be done with psychology.
Yeah, I think it's you can see it now. It's true that psychology could always be applied in everything, because a lot of the psychological frameworks, you'll find them, and I think we saw them a lot in business school. And now with the emergence of professions such as, or theories such as is it behavioral economics? It's also based in psychology, and they found a way to sort of incorporate it to explain it's even the basis of economics, because economics assumes that people are rational and they behave in rational, so that's all rooted in psychology.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, where there are people, there are psychological processes happening that can be researched, examined, manipulated. I mean, that's what marketing is. Marketing is psychology.
That's true, you're right.
Advertising. It's using psychological theories to get people to purchase products.
To do what you want them to do.
This is beautiful, because what we wanted to do with this, or what we are doing, is expanding and taking what people know as well and showing them that, look, it's not just this. It's not just cut and paste. If you're a lawyer, you're in court. If you're a psychologist, you're on the couch. If you're an engineer, you're in the field somewhere, when they're engineers in banking and in all those places. So thank you so much for actually going and plugging us even with spaces that I had no idea that psychologists could touch, like marketing.
Nowadays, you are using psychological theories essentially on how to influence behavior.
Absolutely.
Consumer behavior. There's so much to be said for that. And it's really interesting and fascinating. So when it comes to choosing a career in psychology, it is not just sitting on the couch.
Not just sitting on the couch.
It's not just sitting on the couch. And, for people that, are interested in a dynamic career, I would say, research psychology is pretty good, because you work almost on a project by project basis. You go out and you conduct your research, collect your data, you do your interviews, or you do your, statistical analysis or whatever it is, and you write a report, and then that project is done maybe in a year or two. And then you move on to a different one,
But BA students and stats, we hear these rumors about stats being the least favorite subject for BA psychology students, because it has a lot of numbers.
No, trust me, I know. I also teach stats. So
really?
I teach second year stats in psychology.
And how are you finding the performance of never mind performance, attitude?
Everybody hates statistics.
Yeah.
But when you get it, because it's I won't say it's hard to get. You just have to apply yourself. And people don't really like to apply themselves to mathematics.
To numbers, It's difficult to think about numbers as...
numbers either comes naturally. There's no story being told. History is easy. Anything that you have to read about, I suppose. But when you're required to do calculations, but once you get them, and it's technically basic arithmetic, you're adding, you're subtracting, you're multiplying. There's no... mathematical gymnastics happening here. It really isn't. But I think it's just the perception around it being difficult and, having to think in a numerical way. But once you get it, then it's actually very easy. It's actually very easy. And I've seen with my students that a lot of them, they hate stats when they come in the beginning of the year. Yeah. And then by the end of the year, they don't love stats, but they can do stats.
At least.
Stats is very special. It takes a very special person to love stats.
To love stats, nah.
It's funny, Lisach. If there's a word we always use here is mental health.
It always
and
comes
then the
up.
day we have a psychologist, we don't touch on.
So let's talk about mental health then.
Let's touch on that. There is AI, there is technological advancements that have created these apps and these websites that are looking to replace, what you guys do. What's your view on that, and what can't they do that?
Yeah, AI is a reality that we have to, take our heads out the sands about. We can't ignore it anymore. But and it's infiltrating many professions and industries.
Yes.
I think when it comes to mental health, and I think this will always be true for AI, is that it does not pick up on the nuances of humanity, essentially, because it's not human. It just cannot. It doesn't pick up on the nuances of a subject matter or a field of study like psychology, where a large part of it is about the interpersonal relationship between the patient and the psychologist, where there has to be a transference of energy, of ideas, of thoughts that happens. And it's in that middle space where healing occurs, so it's not something that you can diagnose from like in a medical model where I have this, and this symptom, take this pill. Okay. It's in the talk therapy, and there's something to be said about body language, and feeling comfortable and feeling seen and feeling heard and feeling valued and feeling like the person that I'm talking to cares about what I'm saying and my experiences. And not just because I'm paying them, but it's all about the relationship. And I don't think that, and this might be a premature assessment of it, but I don't think at this point in time that AI is able to tap into those nuances of human interaction, which are required for successful psychological therapy. I can type into a computer, I have these symptoms, the AI will tell me that I'm depressed, right? But how will it treat my depression? And as much as we can have, conversations about it, that, there's a voice speaking to me, if I start crying, for instance, in a session, how does AI offer empathy? How do I demonstrate what it is I'm trying to impart to you or help you develop within yourself as a patient? Do you understand? Because that's what happens a lot in therapy, is that you learn or you unlearn, things, and you learn things as well that help you navigate through the world in respect to whatever problem that you have. So if I can't engage with you in human interactions, how can I model that for you and practice that with you in sessions?
I hear you.
It's easy to say, okay, if we're looking at cognitive behavioral therapy, which looks at, changing behaviors through what we call cognitive restructuring, the way that you think and feel about things. How do you train somebody to change their mindset if you don't understand what that mindset is? But again, AI, might listen to this interview and be like,
say bit.
that's a bug we can fix on our next upgrade.
And do you not think that people who are more willing to use these things, there is a shame factor in therapy?
A shame
factor
Yeah.
in therapy, in
There's a
that I'm
stigma.
going to sit and just that I'm going to sit with you and tell you that I spy on my neighbor while she is getting undressed,
Okay.
and you're sitting here as a woman or even as a man. Actually, when I am telling it to a website, there's no one judging me. How do you build that platform or that space where your people can be honest with you and be comfortable to be honest with you, because you're talking to another person?
You're talking to another person, you're talking to a stranger, essentially. But I think when it comes to personal disclosures, good or bad, the stranger element, so to speak, is a positive. Because these people are not in your personal lives. It's not your mom, it's not your partner, it's not your sister, it's not your boss, that they can, even if they do judge you, which psychologists do not, our job is to create a safe, judgment-free space for you to be able to offload, disclose, unpack, put together.
You do not disclose that you do.
No, we do not judge.
How do you turn that off as a human being?
I think, part of it is rooted in empathy.
Okay.
That's something that's natural, and it's also something that we train. We train you to, and the types of problems that we're dealing with are serious things.
Hold up.
So it's extremes a lot. So if somebody tells me they're a peeping Tom, I've heard like on a continuum of the things that I hear, that's low on the continuum.
That's like,
It's like,
And we are also guided by our own ethical principles within the profession. If you've told me that you've committed a crime in the past, there's client-patient or patient-doctor confidentiality, right? or psychologist and patient confidentiality. It's like in any other profession. If you're going to tell me you're going to commit a crime, then I'm required by law to, prevent harm to you or you harming anyone else. So just in terms of judgment, I have to listen with an ear of, there's a reason why this person is the way that they are. People don't just do things out of nowhere. We can track why you are this way, and then we try to break those patterns essentially. But it's a judgment-free space. Like, my job is to listen to what you have to say and help you work through it.
Yeah, sure. I want to take you back a bit. You spoke about we teach empathy. How do you teach someone to be empathetic? Is it not something that you are born with, that you either have or don't?
No. So, empathy can be taught. It's like a cognitive thing. Like, I can actively behave in a way that's empathetic.
Okay.
Right? You know what I mean? Like, if you tell me, and we learn this as children.
Yes.
When someone's crying, you go, oh, sorry.
Yes.
And you think about yourself, like, parents always saying, for instance, how would you feel if somebody did that? Or put yourself in their shoes. Is the ability to do that. So that's something that you tap into as a therapist all the time, is that no matter what anybody tells you, you have to look at it from the perspective of, if that were me, how would I feel? Or how would I like this to be received? Or you know what I mean, dealt with? If it's something that I need to be, checked on, how do I check this person in a way that's compassionate and non-judgmental? But even from teaching empathy, you have to practice it. The more you do it, the better you become at it, the more naturally inclined you are towards it. So, when you are studying psychology at all levels, whether it's undergrad or honors or postgrad masters, there's always an element of counseling or volunteering where you learn counseling skills from a theoretical perspective, how to speak to clients when they're in distress, how to, very practical things that become second nature. Or, if it was a natural personality trait of yours that you just are now learning to enhance and formalize and understand, and see how it works. So, empathy can be taught in terms of making somebody feel that you are hearing and understanding them. Whether you feel it or not is a different story.
Which I think is what he was speaking to with the judgment thing. Yeah. But it's sort of the opposite then, or the cure, or the antidote for narcissism, no? Teaching people empathy.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is that, like, in terms of human behaviors, right, we can mimic any behaviors, which is what, people who are clinically diagnosed with, narcissistic personality disorder, have, is that they don't necessarily, well, maybe not narcissistic. Let me say a personality disorder. Again, disclaimer. I'm speaking generally right now and not specifically. Don't quote me. With personality disorders, there's a lot of trained behavior where maybe you don't necessarily feel the feeling that you are expressing openly. And that's just part of socialization, and everybody does that to some regard. It's not necessarily pretending. It's almost like coping. Like, this is how I get through and navigate through life. So I got to do it, whether I feel it or not. But most people feel it. So it's more natural. But from a therapist perspective, I would hope that, as a psychologist, you don't have a personality disorder.
But no, wait. As a psychologist, you're a human being and you're susceptible
we are
to the
human.
Same limitations that
we are
all
human,
are, right?
And we do have our, failings. Everybody suffers from various levels of mental health at some point, or ill health, whether it's depression or anxiety, or postpartum, or, severe stress, or now you're burnt out. These are all mental health problems. And I think it's just a matter of, like in any profession, doctors get sick. Accountants have bad years. Personally, finances aren't great. So, again, I think it's just kind of acknowledging that human aspect of it. But because we are professionals and we are trained and we are There's oversight by governing and professional bodies that, you become somebody that is able to separate your personal from your professional, from experience. And also just you're trained to do it. You're trained to be non-judgmental. You're trained, to express empathy. You're trained to recognize and have enough insight. In fact, more insights than I think the average person to recognize that, I'm not okay. I need time off.
Okay.
Or this patient is triggering me, which happens. You might get a patient that whatever it is that they're presenting with is too close to home for you personally. You need to be able to recuse yourself. You must have that insight.
That sounds like a tough conversation because this person is so dependent on you.
No, but I feel like it would get to you would know they should not be your patient before.
Like this one is too
like
similar
you
to
don't even start to build that psychotherapeutic rapport with them. By the time you're done with their assessment, which is depending on what the issue is, a few sessions in, 2 to 3 sessions, then you should know that and like sometimes you don't. Sometimes they tell you something that is unrelated to their issue. But if it's not part of what the therapeutic work is, then it shouldn't be an issue. But if it's part of the therapeutic work, then you should recuse yourself.
Sure. It's tough because now the next therapist has to deal with the rejection as well.
My therapist.
My problems are just too much.
When I finally gathered the strength to say I need therapy, when I get there, this therapist is like, nope. Not you, man.
Not you. Sorry, Lance. I can't.
Jeez, crazy. Okay. We skipped through the timeline. I think we must just abandon the timeline because now we're just talking about therapy. But you left clinical work.
Yeah. No, I mean
business.
my contract ended.
Okay.
Right. Like I was doing different placements, right? So like when it was over, it was over. And then also it was just, I was at a crossroads.
Okay.
Where I just was enjoying the work, but I don't know, I was depressed. I was, there was so much going on in my life. I was just not feeling it,
Okay.
and not in a flippant way, like, I'm over it vibes. No, I was going through a lot.
Okay.
And I mean, I think that's also what life does. Whether sometimes the path that you choose and that you plan and that you want to take, whether it's God or the universe or whatever, says nope. You're told no.
You need
no matter how hard you try, sometimes the barriers are just like, the further you go, the harder it gets. Like, what is it going to take for you to change course? So, I came back to SA with, a blank slate. It was late December 2019, because I was working and living in the UK. And the following year, March was COVID. COVID hit 2020. So I was gonna I was kind of burnt out. I was not okay mentally. I needed time to rest and recuperate, and just make my next move. And then there were no moves because COVID killed everything. COVID killed everything. And it was during that time, for the whole of 2020, I was very fortunate, that, I had time to reflect, so I was just, what am I going to do? What am I doing with my life? And I was still interested in psychology, not so much clinical. But even if I ended up doing more clinical, I think I would have been fine. But I found that I was helping my friends, my social circle, my little network, through their hard times dealing with COVID. And from the work perspective, the anxiety around work, the pressure with work, the stress with work, and I found myself doing what I was doing in high school, but on a grown-up professional level.
Sure. So more problems.
You know,
I know grown-ups have a lot more
We have
problems
serious
yeah,
than
you
high
know.
school kids.
And then I found that I was more comfortable talking to them about their professional lives
Okay.
as opposed to their personal lives.
Okay.
Because personal lives in high school, it's all the same issues.
Yeah,
It's, oh, this boy doesn't like
boys.
me, you know,
Yes.
or, you know, mom problems and whatever.
Mm.
And it's stuff that we can relate to. But, and I wasn't looking at it from the perspective of professional. I mean, I was a kid as well. I was just like a shoulder to cry on.
Yes.
But now I was like, I have academic and professional knowledge that I think you could apply to your work situation. And I was doing that for a little bit, and then I realized that, oh, this is the thing. But I found myself in conversations where I did not know what they were talking about.
Okay.
You know, they were like talking business speak. And the acronyms were endless.
Okay.
You know, it was
So that was the motivation behind.
ROI, and
Yes.
I would like be writing covertly there on my Zoom calls, you know.
Yeah.
Zoom. It was during COVID, you know, and you know,
Google
or I'm
quickly
doing
ROI.
like, you know, individual consults with somebody and they're talking, and I'm just after that meeting, I'm Googling what is ROI. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what they're talking about. And I just thought to myself that I know I can help and I can offer, and I have been, but I have to do better in terms of just from a psychologist perspective, context is important. I can't help anybody if I don't understand the context within which they are operating. So, you know, my mom suggested that I, you know, sign up for like a little business course or something. And I did. I signed up for business school, and
Are you calling MBA a little business course?
no. I skipped ahead. No. I'm not calling the MBA a little business course.
Okay.
It is trial by fire. But no, I actually signed up when I applied.
What's that?
When I applied, I actually signed up for like a 6-month online business thing.
Oh, okay.
right?
You did that before the.
No, but that's what I applied for. No, I didn't do it. I applied for like a 6-month online smolanyana what.
Yes.
You know, just you know, business for dummies essentially. Right? But you know, with a certificate at the end. I could have bought the book.
Business 101.
Business 101, you know, like just let me just get a feel of the landscape. And then they rejected me. They were like, nope. And I was like, I was so touched. I was like,
As I know I'm
me?
smart, please just give me a chance.
I was like, I'm overqualified to apply for this. Like, what are you talking about? And then maybe 5 minutes later, while I was still, my temperature
Reeling.
was still rising and I was reeling and still trying to figure out like what's happening.
Yes.
I got another email like 5 minutes later while I was still on my computer saying that they have accepted me for the MBA instead and that I should register.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
They have a crappy way of saying
Right.
these things.
No,
That's
but
like
you know,
upselling done wrong.
Yeah, like, right.
you know,
Yes.
but they got me, so I guess it was right.
Yeah.
You know, and then I
Yeah.
was like, what? I'm like, no, guys, this is not what I was looking for. I wasn't ready.
Wait, so the application process for that smaller thing was similar to the MBA, was the same as the MBA,
No.
where you write the exam and you write it, not an exam, like a test, then you do psychometric.
I mean, I don't know if you should include this in the interview. You might want to cut
Actually.
this out.
Okay.
Not that you might want to cut it out, but I don't know how other people will feel. But
Okay.
I didn't write an exam. I didn't do anything. I just was on my computer. I applied.
Yeah.
They said no for the 6 months thing. And then they offered me a place in the MBA.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Malapa halekad.
I suffered
And I don't know if
for my space.
you know, so I think it's because, you know, I have again psychology. It
I
was
think
my
it's
psychology
attractive, yeah.
training
Of
that
course.
got me onto the MBA. You will get onto, and again, this is just me saying, like, you know, research is a soft skill across all industries. Okay, all of them. If you want to do anything from a specialized perspective, in any industry, you're going to have to get a master's degree. Yes. And if you're going to do a master's degree, you have to have research. So I came with a solid research background.
Okay.
And I genuinely believe that's what got me on. They were just like, this one, we know she can do it.
Okay.
You know, and then the qualifications and the experience as well. But,
Okay.
and for me, I was surprised because I had no experience in the business world, like
Yes.
zero.
Yeah.
I'd never worked corporate at all. Like I was doing the course so that I could know what that whole thing was about.
But I think now
You
that
know.
you've gone through it, you understand why you needed to be on the MBA.
Yes, I
The
fully
whole
understand.
appeal is having
fully
everyone from
understand.
everywhere coming together into one space and making magic.
So much so that, you know, it made me, the MBA is what kind of gave me the push to have my own company, you know, have my own, my own thing, my own business.
Okay.
You know, so, I essentially am doing kind of like mental health consulting for corporates and individuals,
Beautiful.
as well as, you know, organizations as a whole, from restructuring organizational culture to, you know, well-being and happiness of employees to, the structuring of strategy when it comes to optimization of employee output, that as well as creating and designing mental health programs for specific organizations, psychoeducation tools and information, workshops, seminars, wellness days, and all of that stuff. So
That's beautiful. So you're tapping into all the types of careers that you spoke about earlier that are available in
yes,
psychology.
research
There's
as
there's a
well.
bit of research, there's a bit of industrial
Yeah.
psychology, there's a bit of clinical, but more career.
Yeah, more career-wise,
Yeah.
more around the executive coaching space.
Oh,
you know,
that's
more
interesting.
in terms
That
of
lady from Billions.
yes. I'm trying to be Wendy
She's
Rhodes.
trying to be Wendy Rhodes.
That is exactly what I'm trying to be.
Is that the template? Is that the...
Although I mean that is very like, you know, hyperbolic
movie,
because
yeah.
it's TV.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not like swearing at people and telling them that they should be badasses and stuff and that, you know, but
Oh, you don't
to
do
get
that?
them hype, to get... Yes, sir,
I
you sound
hate reality
disappointed.
so much. I hate reality.
you know what? The outcome is the same.
Okay.
But that
But the
I mean,
means are
listen,
different, yeah.
there are people out there that are like that.
Yeah. Are
And
they?
I'm-
What do we
yeah.
call those?
No,
Executive
I'm
coaches?
talking about I'm talking about their
in-house skills.
personality, the way that they
Ah.
engage with clients and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, so I mean, yeah, you know, I'm a Wendy Rhodes.
Oh, beautiful.
But I'm, you know, not contracted to one organization.
Yeah, which is what she was ultimately trying to get
Yeah.
to.
And you're not
So you are
secretly
even
in love
better
with
than
the
Whitney
CEO.
now.
No.
Okay, geez, we could talk forever, and I think I would have loved to explore a bit more of the psychology thing. So if you don't mind coming back,
I would love
we'd
to come back.
have you back.
I don't know, mental health Mondays, who knows?
Don't add more things to our plate.
I would love to
No,
come
but
back.
that's beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
no,
You know,
that's
just to discuss mental health in general,
Yeah.
because it's, again, like I say, it's where there are
important.
people.
yeah,
Yeah.
You know, where there are people. Where three or
okay.
more are gathered. That too.
yes.
So usually in closing, well, not always in closing,
Yeah.
we give our guests 3 questions, just to understand the range of their journey and just a bit of a reflection check.
It's
So-
fun to compare and contrast the
Yeah.
answers that we get from different people for the same set of answers.
Okay.
For the same
okay.
set of
No, this
questions.
is fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
In your life,
Mm.
from being an Essex girl
Mm.
to who you are now,
Wendy Rose,
Wendy,
the better version.
the better,
From your mouth to God's ears, yeah?
but it doesn't shout at us and swear at us. What has been your biggest win?
My biggest win,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like in life,
In life. Remember,
that is such. I think I won the lottery on being born in the family I was born into.
okay.
Yeah, I think my biggest win is my family.
Big
Wow.
ups.
Yeah.
That's a new, that you see, this is why it's always fun, because
Mhm.
we've never had a question, and a response remotely close to that.
This
Yes.
is why I asked
Yes.
about like in my life or just professionally.
No,
No.
in your
my
This
life.
is
life-
9 to life. Remember?
In my life,
Yeah.
I'm incredibly blessed when it comes to family.
Would you mind sharing what it is?
Like we're pretty tight, you know.
Okay. Beautiful.
you know, I mean, I've lived thousands and thousands of kilometers away from my parents for years, and my family for years and years and years, you know, living overseas. And when I came back, like, I live 8 minutes from my parents now. So, and I've always have.
Yeah, since you came back.
I'm a family person. I'm a family person. So, you know, family is very important to me, and families, and I don't think I could have done anything successfully in life without their support. So for me, that is the ultimate win.
Big ups.
You know, and it was like, you know, lottery, but also, you know, it could have been anyone, and I could have been anywhere. But because I'm where I'm at, I'm incredibly blessed. For me, my biggest win is the family that I have.
Beautiful. And now it's the opposite of that now, right?
My biggest loss.
Biggest L.
My biggest
And from
L.
that, what was the biggest lesson or takeaway?
Oh, you see, like, when you say, I can tell you, like, you know, professionally, but like, when I think life, like,
Whatever you feel like, you know, you want to share and sort of sheds light into, or has had the biggest impact on who you are today.
I think my biggest L was, like, I don't even know, man. I mean,
What was his name? What was his name?
You know what? I wasn't even thinking about that. Although, you know, I think everybody's had an L that's
In that department.
in that department. But
Biggest.
no, like, that's not even that's not even a little significant in terms of, like, my life. But I think for me, the biggest L would have to be not completing my doctorate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not a regret.
Yes. I think this is why
because I truly believe that, like, you know, God puts you where you're meant to be, whether He puts you there with gentle hands and a silver platter, or
He drop
kicks you. But you're where you're meant to be.
Yes.
You know. So for me, like, I don't know. I think I learned a lot about myself on that journey, because that was, like, probably one of the hardest times of my life. You know, it's not only just the doctorate itself. It's because I was going through a lot at that time. But I mean, I think it would just be nice to have it, like, just you know, Dr. Madima would be nice, you know. But I mean, I will go back one day. I just don't think I think there's other things I want to do first. Yeah. I don't think I was emotionally mature enough, because I was doing my doctorate, like, 29 when I started it.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I don't think I was mentally ready for it.
It's fantastic.
But I'm going to go back. One day is one day.
No, there's still a bunch of time. You can always go back. Yeah.
I think that's my biggest L.
Okay. Okay. And the last question is, if you weren't doing, I know you've had a career pivot now, but if you weren't doing what you're doing now, which is still sort of rooted in the psychology sort of space, if you weren't in that space, what would you be?
Oh, it's funny though, because I'm actually doing it. I'm teaching, but besides the things I'm already doing,
yes.
Alternate career. I think it would have to be something that deals with people, for sure.
Still people
based. It would probably be hospitality.
Yeah.
I would do the hotel vibes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hotel, restaurant, maybe.
No, the hotel.
Okay.
Instead of the Hilton, it would say the Madima. Yeah. Okay. I have a keen eye for things. I mean, I think that involves all the things that I really like. You know, people, you know, taking care of guests, and you know, like giving people a good experience, helping, decor.
Yes. Oh yeah. Actually.
No. You know, and decor, foodie, there'd be banging restaurants and chef, you know. I think I'd do really good in that space.
And why is it a complete non-starter, or could it be something that you do sometime in the future as well?
Nah, it's probably a non-starter for me. It's something I'm interested in. I think if it was to be anything, I wouldn't go that big.
Okay.
You know, I mean, if it wasn't this, if it wasn't any of this,
Yeah. Then you'd
a
go
different
fully
Mukhethwa
into it.
that I would have gone straight to like Switzerland to go learn that shit. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So, yeah. But I think, going forward, nah, I think maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll just have a food blog or something,
Yeah.
nothing
Nothing that intense.
nothing that would require a lifetime of dedication to. Because for me, I don't know, I think now it's like, I want to focus on other things, like family and all of that stuff. So I don't think starting a completely new career would be conducive to those types of goals.
Okay. All right.
Beautiful.
Yeah. That's,
Mukhethwa, we are always talking about mental health here.
yeah.
And we didn't even touch on it that much. So we do need you to come back.
Yeah.
And
But, I mean, today you were talking about my career.
we're talking about your career.
So next time we can talk about mental health.
Yeah.
This can be like the
nitty-gritty
introductory episode.
Yes.
To our mental health consultant.
I like the sound of that. I like the sound of that.
got
No,
you.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any closing remarks?
I think just for, the demographic, that 16 to 24-year-olds that you're talking about, that you're talking to specifically, I think really take time to focus on not just your interests, but your natural talents as well. There are things when it comes to a career path or choosing or, explore and also go outside your comfort zone. What you think is, and I can say this with absolute certainty, is literally the tip of the iceberg of what you could know in terms of your options. Be interested in things that you would not ordinarily be drawn to, because you will find your passion. Outside of your immediate sphere of influence or your immediate environment. And that's usually where it's found. It's when you're exploring, so don't be scared to go outside your comfort zone or venture into new areas, because that's where you learn and that's where you grow.
Oh, beautiful.
That's a great note to close it on.
Yeah. Anyways, thank you guys for joining us for another episode of 9 to Life.
Oh, and this was the final Women's Day episode.
So you guys, thank you for being with us through our Women's Month journey, where we had phenomenal women.
Yes.
Anyways, this podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Amazon.
You started with Apple this time.
I started with Apple. I don't want to make a mistake. Spotify, and obviously on YouTube. Thank you so much. And remember, do tell us in the comments who you would like to see next, which careers you'd like us to touch. And if you have any questions for Mukhethwa,
for the next episode,
in the comments as well. Thank you so much. Killing the game.
Killing the game.
I like that. Killing the game.
Yes,
killing the game.
That's our unofficial slogan. We have 3 slogans.
We have 3.
I was about to say 3. How many? What are the others?
We've got the one that you say.
The one I always start with. We are the Career and Life Journey podcast, where we interview the interesting people doing the things you'd like to or the things you didn't even know you could. Then we've got the one that Farah gave us,
which is the podcast you do. This is the podcast for people that don't want to do podcasts.
Because a lot of cases are like, I would have never done this,
but because it's you.
So and then killing the game.
Killing the game.
Phew, guys, I can smell something good. I can smell something.
This has been so much fun.
Thank you so much for joining us.